So let me just share with our friends watching right now as well. We were talking about the internet and the creator space and the people that want to create right now. And a lot of people believe that it's done, right? That the people that are popular right now are going to be popular forever. And there's no more users, no more attention to be garnered. But the internet and how we're going to be using it is still in its infancy. We're
Yeah,
just starting. And we're like
yeah,
learning how to use this tech when it's still bad. All right. Like we're using a Zoom call right now. We try to use our YouTube to do like a dual stream, and there's like still some technicalities that needs to be figured out first.
I know what you mean, man. Yeah, it's still in its infancy, even though we think that it's been around for a while. Like for some reason, even in the back of my head, I think that the internet is this like thing that's like I'm trying to think like what has been around in humanity that is just like an archetype in our heads that is like throughout civilization. I guess like just general like a library or reading maybe. That's a
I was
bad.
thinking library as well.
Okay, all
Interestingly
right,
enough,
all
that's where
right.
my
Well,
mind went.
yeah, just like the idea of like I'm gonna go to the library. Well, I'm gonna go on the internet. It's like the same kind of idea, but the internet's only been around for 20, 30 years,
Yeah.
if that, and it's
And the way
never
we're using
evolved.
it now, only for like the last 10 years.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Like it's like, and I'm thinking of it like I love that example you gave of how it's almost like this archetypal thing in our minds right now. Like it has been something, as you said, like the library, something we would go to get information. And now we're still doing the same thing, but now we're going there digitally, right? And eventually we'll be able to just project our consciousness directly into that space. And I'm thinking about how technically the internet is a collection of all humanity, right? And how that inevitably could reach this level of almost sentience. Like we'll create a whole new thing, like a species, an existence. And what is that going to lead to?
I don't
Right?
even think we could
The
fathom that, man.
the hyper techno creature that comes from all of humanity's collective consciousness. What will its goals be?
Hmm. Yeah, right. Well, if you look at the internet, right, it's like a it's like a collective intelligence. Like we're all neurons in this giant brain, it seems. And we all have our input to this giant brain, right? I mean, what is the goal? That's hard to say. It's based upon a lot. And you could go down the conspiracy route and say that there's some subversion in the goal and trying to keep people kind of enslaved mentally. But
Mm,
where it's going, it's up to us. That's the beauty of it. Is like we still have the power, especially living in the Western world with the technology that we have to be able to upload like we're doing. We still have the power to take it where we want to go. So I think that's the beauty of it. Like me and you, man, I was thinking about this earlier. We're like glitches in the matrix. The stuff that we're doing, it's not according to plan. Like it's almost like we weren't supposed to be here. And I know that's just like a
no, dude, you're
you know what I'm saying
pushing
though, right?
buttons in my brain. I went through an LSD experience on the 25th, and I had this deep, like almost like remembrance that we're like almost sent from the singularity, right? That there's going to be a point in space and time where there's so much convergence of information, it will be explosive. It'll be like creating a whole new universe, like a big bang in and of itself. And how it creates at that moment is determinant on what was created before that. And me and you, as you said, like we're showing up, contributing to this internet, having conversations, right, of like spirituality, of mindfulness, of taking care of ourselves. And that is, as you mentioned, contributing like neurons to this
Yeah.
singularity that we're now creating again in the future. And I
Hmm.
was like, oh shit, like what are we actually doing? Like glitches in the matrix, beautifully said.
Yeah, right. And I think in the future, and even now, people are going to be yearning for a sense of authenticity, like a sense of humanness, because
Mm,
as well as us contributing to the internet and other creators, what can contribute now, and especially as time goes on, is going to be AI. Like the creation
yeah.
aspect is going to be involved with literally our technology creating for us. You can see that with AI art. You can see that with Chat GPT-3
I,
and
I was
things of
just
that
showing
nature.
my brother and my dad ChatGPT like just before I came into the stream. Like
Yeah.
my brother just finished university, writing his like reports on like a microphone or a sensor on like bearings that create noise, and it's uber complicated. And I put his report into ChatGPT and I'm like, explain like I'm five. And it's like, oh, that's actually not that complicated. And I see his mind being blown, and I see the wheels turning in his head. And I show my dad the same thing for his work, mining, and I see the same thing happening with him. And it's like we're entering an age to kind of like, I feel, resonate with what you're trying to say, where a lot of the stuff we'll see on the internet is going to be AI created. So the human aspect, the personality, is going to be essential. Otherwise, it's just going to be noise.
Mm-hmm. And I guess, I mean, tooting our own horn, I guess that's where we come in. Like, we're trying to be human here. I mean, we have to be human here. I was talking about this with somebody the other day, actually. You know, it's easy to replicate AI art and pictures, right? It's easy to replicate text when it comes to explaining things. But I think we're going to be really in the matrix when you can replicate, like, when I'm speaking to somebody on the screen and I think it's a human being, I legitimately think it's a human being, but it's actually not. That's when we're completely in the matrix. And can code do that? That's the question. Are we going to actually be able to reach a point where the systems are not only sentient, right? Because we're kind of at that point where, like, okay, is this thing sentient? Does it know how to think for itself? All right, well,
This lambda conscious.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're at right now. But then there's a point where it's like, okay, it's conscious, but then can it actually like relate to me? Does it know that I'm human? And do I know that it's sentient? And we go back and forth with each other, kind of playing this game, talking to each other's sense of sentience. When we get
The
to
thing that's
that
curious
point,
to me is, will it have spirit? Right, like
what
that
is spirit?
sense of presence. Exactly. Like, and I am in the camp. I'd like to believe it's possible. I'd like to believe it's possible to do that with code. Have you seen Ex Machina?
I've heard of it. No, I haven't seen it though.
I feel it's one of those movies that really kind of take your brain on a spin. And the movie's premise is basically this genius who trained an AI model, chat model, on the entire internet, so all of humanity, and then puts that AI chat model into a body. But the body is clearly robotic. And then he gets an outside participant to have a conversation with it. And instead of just passing the Turing test, as you mentioned, like having a conversation of an AI and not knowing you're having a conversation of an AI, he shows the person, this is an AI, this is its robot body, and still sees if he can fall in love with it, right? Will he see the spirit in that being? And the story that kind of plays out as a result of that question. Like, we're heading into interesting times, man. There's this beautiful creator called Serbia, and he made this video called "Don't Hex the Water," and it's basically this deep dive of two different worlds where someone hexed the water and gave every reflection the ability to show you anything and anyone in the universe. So as a result, privacy completely disappeared. Right? You don't have privacy. You don't live with privacy. You don't live with secrets, because anyone at any point can just look in a reflection of water and see the things that you're doing. And then on the other side, he talked about this other town who also got hexed, but their water was mist. And this mist and the water that was making up of it was basically attached to this octopus, an all-seeing, always watching octopus. And it gives you everything. Gives you nice stuff, gives you comfort, gives you the life you think you want, at the expense that it wants everything, all of the information you've ever had, your likes, your dislikes, your marital status, your hopes and dreams, and that's in a weird way what we're doing with the internet right now. We're creating this.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. This all-seeing, always watching, wants all of your information always. But as a result of that information, gives to you something. And at this point, it feels very much like we are the ones being observed by our internet right now. And I feel what we're doing right now is, in a way, taking back that control. As you mentioned, glitching in the matrix. Instead of just being observed, instead of just being these entities that consciously or unconsciously consume over and over again, we're actually trying to push back into that system, trying to steer it in the direction that we know it's supposed to be going in.
Exactly, man. It's like we're not letting it use us, we're using it while we still have the time. But it's all up to everybody in their own accord to do that.
Exactly. And
Like we can only really
it's
do
the
so
time
much.
thing. Like I feel I trip myself out about that sometimes, about how I'm running out of time, right? And then I think to myself that there are 9-year-olds on this planet right now, all right, just doing what 9-year-olds do, playing probably games on their iPads or something. And I'm pretty sure they're not worried about running out of time right now. Like we're gonna be able to do some cool stuff, man. I'm
Oh, for
excited for
sure.
this future we're heading into. I don't feel like it's hopeless. I just think we should realize that we're doing it to ourselves. Like
Yeah,
the allowing
exactly.
of things. Like I don't know whose quote it was, but that quote of it is the men who stand by and let evil be committed are the real evil ones.
Damn. Wow.
And like what are we supposed to do? You know, like we're watching a lot of injustice. Yesterday we had this topic of your life is the work of art, right?
Mm.
The life you live, the things you do, the way you show up in the world. No, day before yesterday, sorry, is a work of art. And the internet can be that as well for us. Like it can be a beautiful collective project. Oh goodness. I just I'm curious, you know, like on the conversation of ChatGPT, something I said to my dad, which I do believe is that the way that we're going to interact with the internet in the future might be through that as a medium. Instead of using Google to ask it a question, you would ask your AI. Have you seen her?
Um, a long time ago.
Another,
I actually don't remember,
yeah,
and I
another,
wasn't like on this wavelength. Like I was kind of like
not
I was. It was like when it first came out, and I was like, dude, this is stupid. What is this? But now, if I watched it now, I definitely would feel like a little
be a
different.
little bit more trippy.
Yeah.
So basically, to complete the point, I believe we're going to be interacting with our AI, and our AI will interact with the internet for us. And
Uh-huh.
I feel in a way that might make things better. It might also create a lot of bias, and it is going to potentially create echo chambers within yourself in the same way you create an echo chamber with your algorithm. The content that YouTube, Instagram, TikTok kind of reflects back to you is you in a weird
Interesting.
way. It's the stuff you like to see. And this AI could potentially be manipulated by, you know, powers that be as well.
Of
But
course.
also at the same time, it gives me a hope for, you know, our youth, where I can give my kid its AI, right? And say to this AI, my kid is 6 year old, right? Like when he wants to know things that won't serve his, you know, growth, give him the information that it's not going to help him, right? Like I'm thinking about how as a 7 year old, I could Google boobs, and literally within seconds I could have access to something like that. As a 7 year old, you
Yeah.
know, it's like we're just as immature as our internet is right now, and we're watching it grow up.
Yeah. Our internet. It's just funny to say it like that. Our internet. It's just a reflection of us.
Yeah,
We talk about it as a separate entity, but really what it is just a reflection of us. And what is it a reflection of? Like when I mean by us, I don't. That's a tough one, man. So you could say our egos. You could say like
that's a good
our
one.
I don't know. You could say like our lower tendencies, but depends how you use it. It's tough. That's a whole rabbit hole in itself. But ultimately, it's like it is the separate entity in a way, but it's really just us. It's like our collective mycelial network.
Yeah, exactly. I like that as an example. And it's like I mean the mycelial networks that we have on our planet will literally communicate, right, to a tree on this side that there's a pest coming, and then it starts producing neurotoxins in its leaves, so
Yeah,
that when the pest try to migrate deeper into the forest, it starts getting killed. And we can do that with our internet, right? Like we as human beings can communicate in a way that we've never been able to before. Before we came into the stream, I had this conversation with my parents about the situations we're going through in a country, in our country specifically, with like corruption specifically. And when it comes to the way our taxes are being spent and the roads and how long it takes them to get fixed. And I think it was like 170 kilometers, like almost 100, a little bit more than 100 miles, 100 plus potholes, costing something like 15 million US dollars. And it took them, I think, 12 months to fix this piece of road. And then another piece of road taken on by the community fixed by individual people took them 7 hours to fill something like 100 bottles in a longer distance range for, I think, something like $4,000. And
Mm.
it's almost like our politics, our old kind of like system of government. It used to be this collection of people who would think about, have access to information, and then make decisions for humanity based on the access to information that they had. But now we're all that with the
Yeah.
internet.
Yeah.
Like, we
That's a
don't
really good
need a
point.
government anymore.
That's so true, man. We really don't. We're moving to the point, and that seems so outlandish, right? But we are moving to a
It
point where we
does
don't need other people to make our decisions.
decisions for us. Like, we like, and like, think about it as a prompt, like a notification. Oh, we're trying to pass a bill for clean water to everybody. Do you think that's a good idea? A prompt on your cell phone. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a pretty good idea.
exactly.
Unanimously, humans say together. Where if there's like a small group of people, and these people are lobbying because they have access to one of these clean water reserves and they're using it to bottle water in their products, and then they can pay this person a bunch of millions of dollars to say no, we don't want people to have access to clean water. It creates this separation, right, where corruption is possible because it's a closed niche, something that's small, where it's impossible to corrupt every single person on earth, even if you tried.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm. Wow, man. That's so trippy to think about, but it's actually like realistic. Like I can see that using our technology, especially things with like blockchain and like you know what I
Exactly.
mean, like blockchain to
And
authenticate stuff like that.
it's the weird thing is, while it has this potential for massive benefit for humanity, it also creates this narrative of dystopia, right? Because if we are all going to be actively participating in our society, every single one of us are going to have to be accounted for. And
Mm,
people have this like real trip about privacy right now, where privacy is something we invented, like 500 years ago, we were sleeping in one room. Like, some person rich enough to build himself a castle had this genius idea of a bedroom, a room where I can put my bed. And now it's just something normal to us. It's this invented, again, a simulacrum of what privacy is supposed to mean and how we're somehow separate. Right. I guess that's the ego as well, kind of at work, that we've created this separate, entity as ourselves. But if we can realize that if every single one of us can be accounted for, every single one of us can be supported as well, right? Instead of thinking of it as a monitoring, I'm going to be less than because I'm a part of a system, think of it as you're contributing, and then that system can contribute back to you.
yeah.
How do we help people we don't know about? Is the question I ask myself.
Hmm. Yeah, man. I 100% agree. The thing is, we're talking about ideals. We're talking very ideally right here in a perfect
Yeah,
utopian world with this
in a
technology.
perfect world,
We know how humans are. We know how humans can be.
money. Yeah, and like one of the biggest points of that like video, don't text the water, and I maybe I'll send you the link. It's
Yeah, please.
beautiful. It's kind of like one of those that he doesn't leave it on a positive note. He kind of lets you ruin this trippiness of it. But how? I think I might have lost my point. How did I finish it?
Well, we were talking about ideals, and you were talking about the
Ideals. Oh
water.
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. So why is the internet the way that it is? Why is corruption the way that it is right now? Why is things so messed up? And it's not because of our self-hatred. It's not because of our, anger towards the world. It's not because of our willingness to believe we're separate. But it really is just to make a buck.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's to make a freaking buck.
Hmm. That's when the
Like,
internet
it's
really
a little
changed,
bit.
man.
Yeah, and it's like the internet, and like we're like the internet needed to be that way for it to become what it is, because of the amount of advertiser dollars that flowed into the internet as it is right now. It was necessary for people to track the information and then use that tracked information to create a great advertising model, right?
Yeah,
And to us, it's basically the rules we're teaching our internet right now, and we're going to have to try and pivot. And I feel, how do we do that? And I feel like what we're doing is that, right? Because even though you can interrupt yourself and be like, hey dudes, this podcast is sponsored by NordVPN right now or whatever,
Yeah.
like it's not going to be as invasive as me being like, oh Gary, I know you like X, don't you want to buy X?
Yeah.
So with this medium we still get to be human. It's like the detachment hasn't happened quite there yet, and I don't know if it will. I don't know if it will when it comes to like personal interactions. That's why I feel we're doing what we're doing right now. Instead of just posting content and then that content is like basically out there, we can like maybe read comments, but we're not actually interacting with the people we're posting content for. We're actually opening ourselves up to those people, like creating a medium where we're directly reachable. The live streaming, the live streaming thing too.
Yeah.
I feel like I really caught a lucky break with RPAN the way that it was at first, and it's been like something in this year that I've really had to kind of come to accept, that this tool again, that we got to use, that had us reach a lot of people. Like every single person that watches my streams right now found me there, on RPAN. This Reddit front page. Yeah, you found me on YouTube actually, which is amazing. I like when that happened, I had this like aha moment open up in my mind of like, oh, like YouTube's actually kind of working, But I feel like we're gonna have to do shorts and normal videos as well. And it bothers me. It really does, because I feel it's impersonal, right? This human connection we get to have with each other in a way goes away, and I'm talking to a camera instead of a person in that medium sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I think the way to go about it, man, is to keep doing what you're doing and make content from what you're doing. So it's like, yeah, you can make different things like shorts and, shorter videos in general, or just like different ideas, I guess, but still keep the core basis of MeltMore. And if you do that, I think you'll be able to still retain yourself or what you're portraying online. And I think that's the most important part. Is don't change up what you're doing. Just kind of like add on to what you're doing, or maybe like not even add on, but just like
let it grow.
Yeah, let it grow.
Yeah,
exactly. That's
like
that's how I see it.
I feel it's one of those things where we get so in our own minds about, like we do create this like persona of ourselves, and I've been curious about that, where I feel in a lot of ways that persona is melting away, because when I speak in my streams, I try to, and like Ramdas said it beautifully as well, I try to be aware of the fact that he who speaks know nothing, he who doesn't speak knows everything, right? And to try and find myself in that balance of being able to say things that could have some sort of value to the person, while at the same time fully acknowledging that I don't know what you're going through right now, right? I don't know what your situation is. I don't know what life has taken you through. And to try and remind myself that I don't know nearly as much as I would like to believe I do. And that's been hard. It's been really hard.
Yeah, I think it's important to admit that, not only to people, but especially to yourself. If you stay on that wavelength, I think that's the most important part. And it'll probably get harder and harder. The test will get harder and harder as you get more and more popular, to stay humble, I guess. But if you can stay on that wavelength and keep that almost as your mantra, I think then, you'll be able to retain a sense of, I don't know, authenticity that people ultimately, that's what people will flock to you for. I think that's what people are going to be yearning for in the future on this so-called internet, is authenticity and a medium of creation that isn't just so that you can be made money of, if that made sense. I don't know if that was grammatically correct, but like
completely.
Yeah, because a lot of people nowadays, like obviously I'll use an example like Logan Paul, right? He's just making stuff to make money, and popular YouTubers like that, like a lot of their stuff doesn't have any substance. I was looking at a lot of like popular people. I'm like, a lot of their stuff, it doesn't have anything. Like, you're not talking about anything, man. Like, what are these people doing? They're just making stuff for views, which works. That's the thing, right?
It hurts me. It hurts me even. Like, and me and my friends, we have and I don't know if this is insensitive, but we have an apt word for it, and we call it brain damage. Like, that content that has no substance is just noise, screaming in your ears, basically. Like you're not gaining anything. And I feel everything we expose ourselves to becomes encoded in our neurons,
Yeah.
right? To the
Mm-hmm.
point where now in the future, if you're dealing with a certain problem, that information, that fractals that you kind of induced in your brain of the content you expose yourself to is now accessible to you. And if you watch content that doesn't do anything for you other than create like this deep concern for humanity, like Logan Paul sometimes does for me, it's like you're brain damaging yourself. Like you're
Yeah.
damaging your own ability to in the future make good decisions, to see the world as a beautiful place.
Yeah.
And it's,
Exactly.
I mean, like the dude actually filmed a person hanging from a tree, you know, made a joke out of it,
Yeah,
and
dude.
then
Oh my
continued
God.
to just make millions of dollars afterwards as well. Like it's like a cosmic joke almost,
Yeah.
and it creates this incentive, right? It creates this real incentive to do what's popular, to do the things that you
Yep.
know people will flock to. And you said it beautifully, that authenticity is going to be the thing that's really valuable in 5, 10, 20 years from now, because we're going to get fed up. We're going to be like, you know what? I don't want to brain damage myself anymore. Maybe I'm going to go and listen to a Gary Haskins podcast where he has like a mind altering conversation with a friend. And I see that, dude, like when I get into a psychedelic state of mind, suddenly I can't watch short form content anymore. I have to watch like podcasts. I don't know if you know him, but I think you would love him as well. His name is Dan Coe. He's been making some really good videos.
I don't think I know him. No.
I think if you, I'll send you some links of these creators. Like I'm feeling more and more inspired by this what's the word I'm looking for? This revolution of
Mm.
people that actually want to better the world instead of just pillaging the systems that be.
Mm. Pillaging the systems that be. It's a good way to put it. It's true though, man.
Yeah, it
It's true.
is.
But I think
Like
we're
people
reaching
are,
this. Sorry.
sorry. I wanted to just say people are trying to fill their pockets the way they know how to fill their pockets while they still can't fill their pockets that way.
Yeah. That's the thing. I think it's almost like a bank run at this point. Like they're trying to do it as much as they can because I think we're at a breaking point right now with humanity where it's not going to work for that much longer. Because like we said, the
Nope.
internet's still growing. Like this is still something new and people are getting used to the technology and how to incorporate it into their lives and integrate it in a healthy way. And as we go on, yeah, there's always going to be people that are lost in the sauce. But at the same time, there's going to be other people that are going to know how to healthily integrate this into their life. And that's going to grow more and more as time goes on. And as that goes on, people like Logan Paul or insert popular influencer here are going to lose their influence and thus not be able to make money like they used to. And that's completely going to change up the kind of content on the internet. Assuming that there's no kind of dark forces at play that are, you know, with their puppet strings putting certain messages out to the people. In an ideal world, people are going to know how to use this correctly and not want to view shit, pretty much. You know, they're going to want to view, ideally, stuff that's going to hopefully help them. I mean, entertainment has its time and place, though. Like, I'm not knocking general entertainment and dumb cat videos or, you know, funny stuff. I like there's a time and place for funny stuff, but if that's everything on the internet and that's all one is consuming and spending their time with, then yeah, you're gonna get lost and sucked into it. But I think, like I said, people are waking up to that. At least I am. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm speaking for personal experience and people that I'm speaking with as well. That we're
And
kind of
like,
go ahead.
no, sorry. No, I just wanted to add to you, like, we've only been exposed to the internet for X amount of years, and we've kind of like grown up with it in a lot of way. Like, you probably started using the internet in your teens, right?
Yeah, early teens. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been like a big part of our lives. And I remember vividly as a kid, you only brain damage yourself. Like most of the content you expose yourself to is the stuff that lacks substance. And then I feel like you reach a threshold where you're like satiated with the amount of nonsense that you've seen. And then you start pivoting to something a little bit more meaningful.
Yeah.
And we notice that in ourselves. And I feel because we've been through that process, because we are where we are right now, we've like spent a decade plus learning how to internet. Kids are just getting into it right now, and
Yeah.
that's why it is the way that it is. And they're going to spend the next 10 years growing up as well. So I think you're completely on point. Sorry for interrupting you.
Oh, you're good, man. That's a good point. It was exactly probably where I was gonna go. It's it's kind of like, I mean, getting to like the spiritual aspect. It's almost like the story of using Prakriti, which is this material world of phenomena, to reach Purusha. Like there has to be no other way, right? So you can take that metaphor into the internet, like using what the noise of the internet, I guess you could say, the bullshit, to realize that that's not it. You know, using Prakriti to realize like that's not it per se, right?
Mm.
Technology wants you to think that that's it. And this is, you know, don't you want to view this? Look at this, man. And it's just like an endless, it's an endless feed. There's a reason they call it a feed, right? It's an endless feed into your five senses, or maybe two senses, whatever. It's an endless feed
For
into,
now.
yeah, for now, exactly.
Yeah.
It's an endless feed into you. And it's just endless distraction, right? And I think inevitably we're going to see that's not like, there's going to be something, a yearning in somebody's soul that people are going to feel, and they are feeling right now, to say like, why am I not satisfied with this, whatever it is. I mean, I'm talking about stuff on the internet, but also like whatever the material world wants from us or wants to give us, right? There's going to be like, there's something in the human spirit that's like, why am I not satisfied? And that essence of why am I not satisfied is going to turn people into this wavelength of finding this kind of satisfaction in one's being, in their heart, you
Mm.
know? And it doesn't even have to do with content talking about that. I guess what I'm trying to get at is that like ultimately it's going to turn people into a sense of realness within themselves, you know, internet content or not. This world, the illusion of Maya, of the internet, of the craziness, of the chaoticness of people just trying to distract us with pointless messages, is ultimately going to turn people inward, because there's not going to be anywhere to turn, man. If
Yep.
all you do is turn on TikTok and reels and shorts and whatever else is on there, is something in the human spirit, I believe, not everybody, but a lot of people are going to get turned off by that and turned on to themselves in their heart. And yeah, that's it. Hopefully, I mean, I don't think even when you get turned on, you don't need to be turned on by anything like your live streams or my podcast. I'm not saying like turned
Mm.
on to this kind of content, people are going to start watching me. No, it's not like that. I'm just
No.
providing a medium to, I don't know. I'm just doing what I enjoy. I don't really know what I'm doing, to be honest. We'll
Yeah.
see what the future holds. But like,
You're having conversations.
yeah, I'm having conversations with other people that are on that wavelength of kind of like, yo,
Mm.
this is this I don't know. Like I'm still
It's
finding
pretty
out, like I
wacky.
said. Yeah, I'm just connecting with others that I think are also on that same wavelength of like, yo, this world is wacky, man. Finding
I
the
think you
truth.
shared beautifully, man. Like and I've noticed that in myself as well, where it's almost like two modes of being for me. It's either the busy slash distracted mindset where I'm doing things, right? Where I'm like using my senses or my hands to do things. Or and the only way to kind of escape that doing is to just be with yourself, right? As you mentioned, to go inward. And people are noticing more and more how we're not doing that nearly enough. Like this, like first thing in the morning, all right, we have a cell phone in our faces. Like
Yeah.
where is the time for ourselves? And to me, the way I'd like to communicate this to people going forward is that you are a divine thing, right? Unique as a human being. That there isn't, right now at least, another Gary Haskins doing live streams, having podcasts with people, living your life, wearing that shirt, being in that space right now. The experience that is yours is so unique and so rare that it's almost like the best movie you could ever watch.
Yeah.
And spending some time with that, right? Instead of just ceaselessly distracting yourself, getting away from that life that you're calling your own, to just be with it. And it's hard sometimes, right? Spending time in mindfulness, watching your thoughts, the things that you're trying to escape, the things that you're repeating over and over again. It can be devastating to come to this level of awareness that, oh, I'm not as at peace as I would like to believe I am. And I feel like, as you mentioned, we're learning. We're actually learning. And the internet is brand new in the grand scheme of things. Like the library existed for thousands of years. And we were like, yeah, the library. And now the library is in our hands and we can talk to it.
Yeah,
Like that is quite a change.
quite a change to
It's
say
quite
the
a change.
least. It's and we can contribute to the library, and the library's in our pockets. It's
Yeah, the library is alive.
yeah, it's
And it's
alive.
like, and one of the craziest things that I've come to conclude recently, we went to this music festival, and I had this mild low hum stress that there won't be internet connection for me to do my streams on. And I like sent them a message making sure they have internet connection beforehand as well. And then I got there, and then our chalet was like at this mountain view, and on top of that mountain were these bunch of little antennas, right? And I noticed how the old version of myself would be like, human beings, why did you ruin this beautiful landscape? But in that moment, instead of feeling that, I just had this deep sense of gratitude, and I pointed at it, and I said to my friend, that is our connection to the infinity,
Hmm.
right? Where the internet as it is right now is the closest tangible thing that we've had to infinity in our existences. Because even if me and you wanted to, we could spend our whole lives trying to consume the internet and we would not even get to a fraction of it.
Yeah, that is wild. Yeah, we're approaching singularity. Might even already be there.
Yeah. We probably will see the singularity in our lifetimes. You know, that's
How would you
a
describe
real
that?
trip to me.
Like, how would you
Singularity
describe
to
what
me,
singularity is?
it's in my mind, it's this point where technology reaches a level of processing and understanding of what it processes to the point where it can start creating things beyond human cognition, right? And its goals will be based on its capabilities, and those capabilities will be so far beyond human capability that it will be unfathomable to us. Like, we would actually not understand what's going on anymore. We'll just be in it for the ride.
So where do human beings come in that equation?
I believe we're going to be the creative nodes. Like, we're going to be the flowery ones. They're going to be the chin chin, chin 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 chin. And we're going to be like, "Woo, yeah."
So, do you think we're putting input into this so-called singularity, or at that point
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. I think we actively will. There's this movie. I think it's called Transcendence, a Johnny Depp movie, where he uploaded himself to the internet as consciousness, and then became the internet as consciousness, and then eventually figured out how to code the internet into every single thing, every atom, every living thing in the universe, in the world at least at first, is coded into this internet. That's like one level of the singularity where we could literally become down to the cellular level integrated to what the internet is right now.
we might already be there. We
Yeah.
just don't know.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, the fact that we have atoms, these little, like, I think of atoms as like pixels in our universe, and we could be in a simulated reality right now.
Yeah, almost like holographic.
Mm.
We're like
And this, I mean, like one of my favorite. I don't know if you know Lex Friedman. He's also this
yeah.
other cool podcaster. I love him. He's one of my favorites. But he has this interesting thought experiment that he likes to pose to people of how do you know that this isn't a replayed, rendered reality, that the old version of yourself is now going back into the past and experiencing again.
We don't.
Yeah, it's like the last Thursdayism, right? How do you know everything, every memory you've had, every delicious food you've eaten wasn't planted in your brain last Thursday? The whole universe was created last Thursday.
We don't. That's the thing.
Oh, philosophy, man. I feel like this is something humans have been doing every single time we reach some level of aptitude, comfortability, I think is another good word. We start philosophizing. We're like, but why?
But why?
But why?
How?
But why? Tell us. And then you tell them, and then Socrates goes, but why? And then we go deeper and deeper. One of my best friends, Christian, he calls it questionology. That it's just this ceaseless spiraling down deeper and deeper, questioning the questions and the
Yep.
questions.
Yeah, that's Socrates.
And I
essentially
feel-
right there is the more you know.
Yeah,
the more
exactly.
You don't know.
Yep. And I feel like to kind of like close a point you were asking about earlier is what is it all for? I think we're asking why, right? Like the internet as a collective is trying to maybe understand why all of this, why it is we are so driven to do certain things. And I feel it might be scary what we find. I really hope that it's not just to make money. I really don't. Like, cause that's gonna be such a bummer. My world, I hope that at the end of all of this will be like, oh, it's for love. All right. All of
It is.
this,
It is
these
for love.
conversations. And we believe that, right? But we're trying to prove that now on a scientific level.
You mean the internet as a whole or life as a whole? Like, what do you mean for love?
Every like like
Everything.
everything. So for me,
Everything is for
this is
love.
the way I articulate it to myself. I think of it as consciousness fundamentally is, but because consciousness loves, it was willing to split into multiplicity.
Yep.
Becoming infinity, creating all of the duality we experience as humanity right now. And if not for love, there would never be the singularity or oneness collapsing into duality. Like, love is the ability for multiplicity and unity to exist at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, because without the duality, there wouldn't be love. What is there to love and be loved if there's no duality?
Exactly.
That's why love is the essence of this entire thing that's happening we call life. It's because it's just like we need to be separate. We need to have the seeming separateness in order to find the commonality between me and you and the listener. Like, we need to have that, but like that's not the end point, it seems. And the internet is drawing up endless amounts of seemingly separate situations and narratives, but ultimately I think it's going to enable us to be able to see our commonality behind it all, like the love behind it all. Ideally.
I'm hopeful. I am hopeful. Like, I feel, and it's this joke of before the internet existed, right? Before distributed information was everywhere, before we all had access to all of the wisdom of the world, there were probably dudes like us having conversations like this, being like, if only there was such a thing like an internet where everybody had access to all of the wisdom in the world. Surely we would come to the same conclusions and agree on everything. And even though we might slowly be getting there, it's almost like a joke, like there's definitely this part of us that wants to be ignorant. It's almost like we came here to be ignorant. Like we forgot that we are everything so that we could be humans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the game, man. That's the game. We have to be ignorant. Yeah, if we get mad at our ignorance, then you're going against the will of God. Because the will of God is that we came here, forgot that we were God, so that we could then thus merge with God again. But we're not merging with God from where we came from. That single unitary concept of is like God. Like, just picture what like God in your mind, right? It's like, I know that's obviously you can't, but it's like
it's so crazy. Yeah,
oneness is like, it's that oneness, that ultimate oneness, here and now. Boom. The Big Bang all happening at once. That's God. That's where we came from. But now our evolution as consciousness is we separated into these separate nodes that forgot we were the one. We had to forget we were the one. We had to be ignorant in order to return back to that unitary consciousness of the one, yet remaining separate at the same time. That is an evolution in God, in a way. We're creating alongside the ultimate creation to evolve into this state that is beyond duality, like true non-duality. True non-duality is like, yeah, all is one, but all is also separate at the same time. If that makes sense. It's like it's another
like an infinity symbol, like, sure, it's one thing, but there's two of it.
But they're connected at the same time. And if you stay on either pole, then you're actually trapped in duality. So it's this constant dance between oneness
going
and
back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
a trip.
It's a trip, dude, for sure.
It really is. Like, and then you take psychedelics and your mind is like trying to explain this to you. And it's like, please. I understand that I don't understand, but I understand something. And then it just comes back to this, I am.
That's it.
Right? Like, all of these stories, all of these experiences, and just this ceaseless, always in the now, I am.
And you are. I am,
Yeah.
and I recognize that you are. So because of that, I'm going to love. And that's where this, almost like if you picture a pyramid, that's where these dualities reach a point that is beyond.
Mm.
It becomes that's why like the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit is poignant, because it's like a
It's
third
powerful.
thing. That's why
Yeah.
the pyramid shape is so poignant in our being, because it's like it's quantum. It reaches this sort of quantumness where it's like you go beyond the duality. I am and you are. Like, how can that doesn't make any sense, right? How can you be you and me be me? Like, this you can reach a sense of solipsism. Like, oh, obviously I'm the only one in the universe, right? I am. Like,
Right.
no, no, no,
Yeah.
not just I am. You are,
Hmm.
I am as well. And
Exactly.
this is this point we're reaching right now, where collectively humanity is kind of, we're all realizing like, shit, we're all I am.
Yeah. And you said
But
it
we're also
beautifully. It's
separate.
quantum.
It's
It's
quantum.
like it is in a way quantum, and like the experience of I am is almost like a function that collapses into being, right? Like you are the one instead of the zero,
How can we all be the
right?
one? That's the thing. That's what the ego wants to say. It's like, how can he be the one and I be the one at the same time? Well, that's the thing, is we're all the one. It doesn't make any
Collectively the
logical
one.
sense. I understand if anybody's listening to this right now, the language isn't adding up. It's because language is caught in duality, object and subject. So there's only so far
Mm.
that language can go. But we can touch upon this idea that I think we're both on the same page of right now, Mel.
You know what the most beautiful way for me to explain it in a way that goes a little bit more into the physicality instead of language is to see yourself on the planet, right? And then you consider this self that you are as a one, as an entity, as something apart from the earth, right? And then I
Yep.
take you apart from the earth, right? 1,000 kilometers, 10,000, a million kilometers away. How long do you continue being, right? You don't have a spacesuit. You don't have extra oxygen. You maybe like 2 minutes, and then suddenly you cease to be. So you are on a way one with this system that we call Earth. You're breathing an atmosphere right now.
Yep.
You're being held down onto a planet instead of being flung into space. You're eating food from this place, and then that is what's powering your conscious experience. The sun is generating energy for the food that you eat. It really is this, and then you can see like the layers of wholeness. And I feel what we should do as humanity, instead of being so attached to our egos and this feeling of, oh no, but I want to be the one, right? And everybody should feel this way about me. Realizing that we are collectively the one, to go from an ego consciousness to an eco consciousness,
I
where
like that.
cutting down rainforests is cutting our own lungs out of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard, as you mentioned, it's hard to really get people through language to understand these points, because it's beyond what we want to believe. Even
Yeah.
it makes it a lot harder to be a bad person if if we're all one.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, but it's the truth. We can't hide from it
Mm,
for that much longer. I think that's why this darkness and the chaos is happening so much in this world right now, because it's literally that's our um that's our catalyst into waking up to that. Like, there's no other way that we're going to be able to reach that point. It's just like we're going against, if you want to say, God's will. So God is going to do whatever he can do or she can do to wake us up from that. So thus the karma ensues and causes chaos, because we're not living according to that sense of
mm.
oneness. And until we wake up, until humanity actually gets on that wavelength, which if is that possible? Who knows? All 8 billion of us on that wavelength? Is that
I mean,
possible?
something that gives me hope is just watching the events unfold in Iran, right? And I'm living in South Africa, thousands of miles away, so there's nothing I can do personally. I can't even get a plane ticket into there right now. But them as a collective, they stood up for something. And there's videos surfacing right now of things being normal. People wear what they want to wear. People get to be themselves. And it's this genuine realization as humanity, comes to this conclusion that, hey, actually we're the ones in power. We the
Yep.
people, right? We the people really are the ones in power, and we have this potential to change things. And as you said, I feel like this darkness that we're watching in the world right now is the last of it. It's like you're like we're boiling something, and the last of it is you're coming to the surface and just
That's what's
trying to
happening.
escape right now.
Hmm.
And it's just a matter of time, right? And I feel like this whole energy crisis with Ukraine right now is making people so aware of how war is not something that any of us want to tolerate. It's it's like we're remembering ourselves by being more exposed to it.
Exactly, because there's
Like
no
it's
other way. We have to be exposed to it with the technology that we have to literally see it on our screens. Be like, huh, maybe this isn't how we're supposed to live. You know, maybe
mm,
like nobody wants the war in Ukraine. Nobody wants that shit. You know who wants that shit? Like a handful of people, a handful of
again
psychopaths and sociopaths.
that small
Yeah.
corrupt group of psychopaths.
Mm-hmm.
And like there's a whole propaganda machine happening as well. I saw this video on, I think there was an attempt where this Russian news channel was reporting that people in England and the other European countries are burning trash in their homes in order to stay warm. That they're, like basically this ridiculous that they're rationing food. That no, 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 no. It's so bad in Europe right now because we're not sending them oil anymore. They're having a hard time, and it's creating this narrative of suffering, right? And that
Yeah.
we're doing something good and these people are suffering right now because of the thing that we're trying to do. And they'll stop suffering if they just kind of conform to the things we want them to do. And it's trippy to me how if you watch some creators go and make videos in Russia, asking the general public questions about Putin and about what they think is going on in Ukraine right now, there's such a sense of dissonance, right? Like they don't actually know what's going on. They don't have access to the same information that we do.
Yeah.
And how do we get humanity as a collective to this level where we're aware of the same information? We're actually paying attention.
I don't know if we can. I think the only way that we can do that is humanity. Not even we can do that. Is humanity literally goes in and gets the information from the higher source, the higher power. Because if one seeks outside information, it's always going to be corrupted by the powers that be. To be honest with you, I don't think it's realistic to be able to. I have a sense of not believing in the powers that humans currently have in power. Like I think it's corrupt, and I think there is a force that is literally right now um, thwarting our efforts to find that sense of freedom and peace. So the only option that we have left is to not try and find it on the internet, is to find it within. And I think you know what I'm talking
Mm.
about, man. If you go within, anybody that's listening right now, they go within themselves, even if it's just 15, 20 minutes a day, something easy, not that big of a deal, but you go within yourself, you'll find this like inner guidance that you'll know is some kind of truth. And I know that sounds corny and cliche, but you'll figure out that there's
And
no other way.
intelligence is also a
Yeah,
good word.
intelligence, a guidance, whatever it is, man.
Mm.
Yeah, something that's within you that will steer one in the direction to ultimately live a better life, one of less suffering, less confusion, less chaos. The list goes on, but ultimately, there's not anywhere else to turn on the internet. I mean, maybe the Conscious Perspective podcast is a good start, but ultimately,
Represent.
ultimately, one just has to go within themselves and see that, like, yes, this world is malarkey. This whole world is
Yeah.
chaos. People are living in a distorted way of living, not true to God, not true to our divine purpose as human beings, not true to this this oneness that we described earlier. But if you go within yourself and find that little essence, that kernel of light, then that is how one can find a sense of accordance to a higher principle that will lead the way. I believe that's just my
I
personal
would like to
opinion.
add, I believe I'm completely in resonance with you, but I would like to add that there's also a great sense of freedom in that space
Amen.
where you can literally be locked up in a prison cell. They can't
Yeah.
take that away from you.
Yeah,
All
man.
right, that they can take your cell phone, they can take your internet, they can take your electricity, they can take your food. They cannot take that place of you.
That I
All right,
amness.
like that you can access that I amness exactly.
Mhm.
And like it's I feel like I'm getting schooled again right now because it's something we so easily forget. Right, we get so caught up in one of the things that I like to remind myself of is wanting for things to be differently. That
Yep.
ultimate suffering is just that. Like, oh, things are a certain way. I want for them to be differently. And then as soon as you create that narrative, you suffer.
Yep. Yep. That's the
And to,
ideal. That's the ideal. I would like to
yeah,
say that I'm on that wavelength 100%. Like, I'm good with whatever. But then, and anytime I think I'm on that, something happens in my life where I'm like, why did this
exactly.
happen to me?
Specifically then.
Yeah,
Specifically then.
exactly. The universe has a sense of humor in that way.
She really does, dude.
But at least
Like, and I
holding that in the back of one's head as a good ideal, and being able to like remind oneself that like it's all good, go with the flow. It's a good foundation, you know. Even though we're
yeah.
not perfect, we're all, you know, going through this process is it takes time and it takes, I guess, discipline to be able to stay oriented in that way. But at least if you stay on that wavelength of not expecting anything of the world, like trying not to change it in a way as much as you know, as much as you can, then I think that's a good foundation for one's sense of peace.
I agree completely. You know, and I've had this practicing of seeing the world as a whole, as a feminine entity, you know, and my awareness thereof as the masculine perspective, where the fact that I'm aware at all is masculine in my mind, and the things that I'm aware of is the feminine. And in the same way that the feminine, you know, like this is book that I read, The Way of the Superior Man by David Data, and he goes into a bunch of different examples to see the world as this feminine entity. The way the wind, you know, blows and rustles leaves is feminine. It's like a dance, like a song. The way water can cut through mountains, you know, cycle after cycle after cycle. The masculine part might be the mountain standing strong, but the feminine is the ceaseless flow, kind of cutting away from.
Yeah.
And to add to what you were mentioning about, you know, the universe having a sense of humor, I feel like it is that feminine relationship with the masculine, where every single time the masculine thinks himself to be all that or believes himself to be strong, the feminine will do something to soften him again. Right? Like that
Yep.
Kali stepping on Shiva perspective. Like Shiva is more than strong enough to defeat her, to stop her, but being willing to be stepped on, right? In order to remind her of who he is. Like it's such a beautiful perspective of like really embracing the ridiculousness that we find in nature. Like one of our trees, Gary, fell over, dude. A tree that has been such a big part of my life, and a daily process of thanking her, you know, for standing so strong. Seeing it completely on its side, you know, being ripped out of the ground by the wind. It breaks my heart, and yet it's so feminine. It's so feminine. And to remind myself of that is the real process.
But now that tree will, its nutrients will go into the earth and back from where it came, you know. It's like it's just transforming. It's transforming.
It's not
That's
gone.
what we're all doing. It's not gone.
It's becoming something new. Yeah, exactly. We're learning, man. We're learning. Like, and I feel like it's been a part of my journey to be a human well. Right? Like my friend shared this beautiful perspective that if we only get to live once, right? I don't really believe that, but if we only get to live once, do you want to live a normal life? Really?
What does that mean?
Do you really want to, like, you know, I'm gonna work a traditional job. I'm going to get my mortgage. I'm gonna marry a wife. I'm gonna get my kids,
White pig
and then I'm gonna raise my kids. Yeah, exactly. Like the normal, the life you're supposed to be pursuing life. And I'm not saying that I don't want that, right?
You're
I'm not
asking
saying
me?
that I don't
I'm
want
gonna
a
say
family.
No.
You don't want that at all? Like maybe the
That
family
ideal?
and the kids one day.
Yeah, but they're not gonna
Yeah.
be like yeah, it's gonna be a little different. I don't know, but like
Mm.
you're saying normal life, quote unquote normal.
Yeah, the point I'm trying to make is more, are you going to do things for this life? If it's the only life you ever get to have, are you going to do things the way they've been done before? All right, over and over and over again, or do you want to do it the Gary way?
Do it
Right?
the Gary
And
way.
then really embracing the way you choose to live your life, realizing that you're doing something well just by not doing what everyone else is doing.
Amen, man. Yeah, and it's true, man. I
Maybe
mean,
we'll leave it at that.
What'd you say?
Sorry, man. Please. No, I wanted to like echo the same to our friends listening potentially right now. I see we're coming close to the end of our stream time. Please.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say, whether you believe in reincarnation or not, we still only have one life in this body. You know, I mean, some
Yeah.
people could say, well, do you think when you're reincarnated, you just come back in your own body, like the same body? Like, who knows? I don't know. But either way, that's how I live my life. It's like, we got one shot at this. All of us, we have one
Mm.
shot at this in this point of view, in this time period. We got one shot. And it's a crazy, not even crazy, it's a momentous time to be alive, to be able to be a
Yeah.
human being in this time period, especially if you're
To
listening.
contribute.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. To contribute, dude, to create. We all have the ability to do so, create the life that we truly, really want to live. And I know that sounds corny and cliche. We've all probably heard that before, but it's true. It's really true,
Hmm.
man.
I
You know,
agree, and it like I'm noticing it in my life as well right now, where I had to actually start, right, where I had this genuine part of myself that was asking who would want to listen to me, right? And like I'm not that interesting. I'm just another person. What do I have to say? And instead of perpetuating that pattern of like, oh, what do I have to say? I just showed up and started saying things. And then that process of showing up and saying things helped me be better at saying things. And it was this momentous, as you mentioned, like this co-creation that we're a part of. The friends listening right now, this experience does not exist if you're not listening to it.
that's trippy. That's trippy.
Yeah. And like
Hmm.
we're all creating in that way right now. And to remind ourselves that we're creating a work of art, thank you for being such a beautiful painter, Gary. Like I was like looking at your shirt this whole time. You're beautiful, brother Bear. Your mind is fantastic. You inspire me.
Same to you, man. We're just reflections of each other. Every time I go on YouTube in the morning, and I see that you're streaming. I don't always come in. Sometimes I do, and I say what's up. But I see that you're doing your thing, and you inspire me. I'm like, there goes Melt, man. He's doing his thing. And that's inspiring to me. So we're just, we're reflections of each other, just in slightly different ways. So just keep on keeping on, you know.
I appreciate your love, brother Bear. I honor you. I look forward to the day we get to share a joint together or something, man.
It'll come someday. We're both still young. We both still have a long life to live,
Yeah,
so it'll come.
like I see us creating, beautiful things. I'll come to your beautiful psychedelic villa, where conversations are encouraged.
I want to come to South Africa, to be honest with you. I
Yeah,
love
one
how
hundred
too.
percent.
I love this whole conversation. For anybody listening, has like you probably don't know because you're there, but like in my headphones is like the jungle. Like I hear like the animals and the bugs. Like it's just like such a nice atmosphere to have. Like it's almost like a background track. Like if I were to like search like jungle background track and put it on here, that's what it sounds like to me. It's awesome.
It makes me so happy. Thank you for sharing that little snippet as well. But the
Yeah, man.
bear, love you, friends
Love you too.
listening. I look like I'm coming out of the darkness right now, sending you love. I appreciate you for sharing some time. We'll see you again, Gary. Thank you for
Peace.
the love, dear
Peace and
friend.
love.
Peace and love. Cheers, cheers.